Final part 6, we hope here. Destruction in their wake. A couple more points and then we'll wrap it up. They decided to bring politics into awards show. Like I said, some of these are important points, some of these are minor points. Hollywood, so politicized now. It used to be a time, and this goes back to the time of civility and decency, if you can remember that far back. You watch an award show, and it didn't matter if it was a Democrat or a conservative. There were plenty in Hollywood at some point. It was all very nice, very sweet, very tender, very cordial. The host would say some funny things that were not pissing anybody off, weren't pitting group against group, just saying some funny general things. Real funny people, real comedians with real funny things to say. Look at award show now. It is basically a left-wing bag on Republicans show in between handing out statues. It's turned into a hate fest. They've turned into a who can outdo the other person in their denigration of an entire half of the population of America and the people who represent them in government. They're not award shows, they're hate shows. They're who, this is who we are, like it or lump it, we're for us and not for you shows. They've ruined the shows for half the country. And as a result, their ratings are in the toilet. And they used to say, oh, they were bad in the 80s. Oh, they're getting worse. Nobody watches award shows anymore because they already know what it's going to be. And they don't want to hear it. Half the country immediately automatically just ignores award shows. And they don't care. They keep doing it. It's worse every year. It's like, a bunch of libs is patting themselves on the back for not just their almost more for their how nasty they can be against Republicans, the president, if he happens to be a Republican at the time, than it is for the work they actually did as actors. Just a silly illustration of how far things have gone. And of course, they want to use the media as a vehicle once to expose social and global pet issues of theirs. Instead of just telling the news, as we said in our video, that journalism is dead, they've gone on to use the media as a tool for their own pet projects, their own the issues they have with society. And of course, journalism is dead. As a result, they've turned the media in not only into a tool. It could be said now that it used to be that politicians in Washington used the media as a tool to get what they want. It is so bad in the media now that it is arguable that it is now the media who uses the politicians in Washington as a tool to get what they want. Think about it. The power of the media not only has grown in some regard, but it's also so politicized, so left-wing now, as they expose who they are by the things they talk about. It's ridiculous. They spend 27 seconds on the point of view of the right and 2 hours on the point of view of the left. With, they don't no longer have, like a news anchor. Everyone's a news anchor now. Everyone. People giving opinion. A news anchor. Then they don't even have an anchor. They have a panel of a group of liberals who just bash Republicans and right-wing thinking for an hour and call that the news. They've ruined journalism. They've ruined the media. They've ruined everything they've touched in all aspects, in all corners of American society. Progressives and liberals have left destruction in their wake. And enough is enough, folks. Enough is enough. It's time to say, we've had it. We're done. It's time to say that we're calling you out for who you are. We've stripped off your mask, or you've taken it off voluntarily, whatever. We see the evil ugliness underneath your liberal left-wing crap, and we're done. We're done. No more. Over. Now, how do we do that? Well, we can scream to the rafters like they do. We can engage in symbology over substance like they do, or we can do something meaningful. We can vote these bastards out of office. Historically, midterm elections following the change of the guard from one party to another at the executive level is usually disastrous for that executive, that new executive's or president's party. Only 4 times in history, 4 other times in history, or maybe it's only 3 other times in history, has the same party that just switched and won a presidential election from the previous party succeeded in maintaining or increasing its numbers in Congress. Meaning, only 3 or 4 times in American history has a president from a party, from a different party, maintained the same amount or increased more party members of his party in Congress. We have an excellent opportunity to do that again. And the polls are showing that Democrats are losing ground, thanks in part to their miscalculation with regard to Brett Kavanaugh, but a lot of other reasons too. The mask is stripped off, folks. Their destructive ugliness is there for all to see. And I would make a plea with the American people. Not that I'm speaking to the American people. I know very few people see these videos. This may be more of a posthumous, or not posthumous, but a retrospective kind of a plea. But to the effect that some people do see it, I would plea that you, which I assume most of you are right-wingers, to pass this along. And of those of you who are left-wingers, to really, really think about what you're doing. Look, I know there's different degrees of left-wingers out there. There are some people who are left-wing on most things, but a few things they're still conservative about. My sister claims to be one. Claims. I don't think she really knows, but whatever. There are people in her orbit, or people whom she orbits in her group of contacts, acquaintances, friends, and family that are utterly progressive nut jobs. And there are people like her brother who are utterly conservative nut jobs. Nobody's truly immune from the opinions of others or other opinions that differ from theirs. Some try to be. But I will say this. I'm not going to, we could talk about, are you better off 2 years than you were 2 years ago? Like Reagan said against Mondale in the 84 elections, you're better off than you were 4 years ago. The answer is yes, let's keep it going. Well, that's just obvious. But I want to get more philosophical and more deep. This is bigger than Trump. This is more important than the Republican Party. As I said, I'm an American first, a conservative second, and a Republican a distant third. In that order and always. What is good for my country is what is most important. Liberals and progressives are not good for my country. They never really have been. They are worse than ever now, as we've talked about. Do you really honestly, in their heart of hearts, believe that the shenanigans that you're seeing on a daily basis now from the left is something you want to perpetuate, when you got Congress people saying on camera and repeating it over and over again that they want to impeach a president who wasn't even in office when they started saying it, and are too stupid to realize that you can't impeach someone for something they haven't done while in office. They're talking about impeaching him for stuff he's done before he ever took office as a citizen. You can't impeach for that. Yet they're still sitting there, impeach. These are the people you want in office? Do you really want to have people who sit there and promulgate getting in the faces of people they disagree with in politics and driving them out of restaurants and grocery stores and department stores, all because they don't agree with what they say? When was this ever acceptable? Did the Democrat Party suddenly become the agents of violence? Of being in people's faces, which of course is going to lead to violence. Sometime somebody's going to get hurt. Someone's going to get killed. It's only a matter of time if they keep this up. This is really who you want to vote for? This is really the values that you cherish? This is what's being promulgated. This is what's being put out there by the left. And they're rationalizing it. There was a time when if somebody was caught accidentally saying something stupid like this, both sides of the political spectrum to say that's no good. No bueno. We don't hold to that. Of course I don't believe in that. But now you hear, well, of course I don't believe in that, but I understand it. Or I agree with the notion. I just wouldn't go out and do it. Or whatever kind of jacked up rationalization they can come up with to try to not totally disassociate themselves from what was being said or done. Do you really want America to go down the road of violence with just because you disagree with someone's policies? The guy who went out to the baseball game a year and a half ago asking, are those Democrats or Republicans? And when he learned they were Republicans, he started a shooting and almost killed a Republican congressman. That's what you want? That's who you want to vote for? That's who you want to keep in office? That's the people you want to rationalize? That's the ideals you want to hold to? I'm sorry, folks. It may sound hyperbolic, but this may be the most important midterm election in our lifetimes. If we don't hold the line, if the Republican Party, which does not do any of this, it is not the Republicans who are causing the melees and the violence at Trump rallies. Those were bought and paid for pretend Trump people coming from the left to incite violence. Okay? The left can keep trying to pretend that we're just all the same, that equivocate. Remember Dorber, we equivocate everything. That they're just as bad as we are. We're just as bad as they are. We're no different than they are. It's not true, folks. Everything is a matter of degree. The left is far more violent, far more incendiary than the right would ever even think of doing. We don't say get in people's faces. We don't tell people to gather a group together and then get in the face of people and then have the balls to say that's not a mob. That's the definition of a mob. Idiots. We don't do this. And you cannot tell me we do this because every time I say, give me one example, it's no idea. Saying it don't make it so. Saying Brett Kavanaugh is a misogynist gang raper doesn't make it so. We have a little thing in our country called facts and laws and a presumption of innocence. You really want to vote for people who threw that out the door just to get away with defeating a means to defeat a nominee for the Supreme Court? Has it come to that? Those are your people, liberals and progressives. Those are yours. You own them. And every time you rationalize them and every time you vote for them, you are complicit in their bad and evil deeds. Sorry. You're no better. If Dr. Ford had no idea that Dianne Feinstein was going to hold that letter, shame on her. If Dr. Ford didn't know that passing this along to fellow Democrats like herself, and her family is steeped in Democrat activism, by the way, shame on her. If she's that dumb, a professor, and we're supposed to think she's that dumb, no, she was complicit. She had no problem with it. And so many liberals have no problem with it because they're now all indoctrinated, they're all lemmings, they're all sheeple, they're all on board with the destruction they leave in their own wake. And personally, I'm tired of the destruction. The destruction to my family, my culture, my country, my values, everything. Sick of it. Up to here. Done. I've never voted for a Democrat, and I never will. Let's say I was ahead of the curve. But now more than ever, it is imperative that we keep these people out of office. Our very country may depend on it. Think about it. See you on the next one.